2 weeks ago, and British eyes were smiling after Robbie Kerr's brilliant qualifying effort at the Central Circuit in Indonesia.
Robbie Kerr for Team Great Britain. He's done it. He's on pole position. Robbie Kerr takes pole position here in Indonesia.
But it wasn't to be in the sprint race as France notched up win number 11. Nicolas Lapierre stealing the race at the end of the very first lap.
Here comes Lapierre for France. He's going to go on the attack using the power boost button. Extra horsepower for both cars. Lapierre's alongside Great Britain. Lapierre for France takes the lead.
The feature wasn't so straightforward though. High drama in Indonesia as Canada's Sean McIntosh came from last on the grid to beat Malaysia's Alex Young and Australian new boy Marcus Marshall. The result, a new look podium. There are just 3 race weekends to go in A1GP's inaugural series, and while it's France's for the taking, can Neil Yarni close the gap and wave goodbye to A1 with victory for Team Switzerland in Mexico? It's round 9 of the World Cup of Motorsport, and today it's qualifying from the Parc Fundadora in Monterrey. Hi there, we're at the business end of A1 Grand Prix's first season. That means we're moving ever closer to knowing which nation's going to drive away champions. We may find out as early as tomorrow. Mathematically, there is a possibility that the title could be decided this weekend in Mexico. It is pretty complicated, but everything depends on Team France failing to perform and Team Switzerland excelling. So first things first, qualifying, casting a beady eye over it with me, World Touring Car Champion Andy Priaulx and Sky Sports' Keith Hewen as ever. Keith, let's start with you. This weekend, France can seal the title. Are they beyond beating now?
No one's ever beyond beating in motorsport. Something disastrous can happen, but it's got to happen in triplicate effectively over the next 3 rounds. They've all but got it in the bag. It's their ball to drop. I don't think they will. Dams is a great team that they're with. Pretty much I think it's done.
Nearest challengers are Team Switzerland. Neil Yarni's final drive of A1. How much is he going to be wanting to really leave with a legacy this weekend?
I think he's done enough, to be honest. I mean, every race is the most important race of your life, and he's performed very, very well this season. He's been a fantastic front runner. He's put it on pole 3 times. He's been on the podium 9 times. You can't argue with his track record. He'll want to leave on a high because people always remember the last race, but in my mind, he's already done enough.
Let's return to Team France because Alexander Premat has rushed to get here this weekend, Keith. It's been a bit of a trouble for him trying to get here, and this is what he's found.
Yeah, look what he came to. He came to a track that basically has changing surfaces. It's a track that he doesn't know. It was built around an old foundry, this place. They made it into a fun park to regenerate the area pretty much, and they used the road infrastructure that was already there. And as we can see from the way the cars are moving around, the transitions from one surface to another, which Andy will talk about in a minute, are an absolute nightmare for any driver.
I think the worst thing is changing grip. You just don't know what to expect with the grip and the conditions, and arriving slightly jet lagged, unprepared is the worst situation to be in. And I suppose he feels like they've already got it in the bag, but you know, things can still go wrong and you can't rely on luck, and the guys have still got a lot to do.
As ever in A1, we have a few new faces to talk about. New drivers in the Team Austria car, Patrick Carpentier. What do we know of him, Keith?
Well, Patrick Carpentier is a very, very good driver in the Champ Car series, and of course he's been in Indy cars for a long, long time, knows this track ever so well, probably the most experienced man around here in the Canadian car, of course, taken over from Sean McIntosh. Sean McIntosh doing it brilliantly in Indonesia, hands the car over to these guys. Really, he said, well, see if you can do as well as I did. And as we can see there, he's not doing quite as well as...
Yeah. I think with these conditions as well, you know, these cars have got a lot of horsepower and very little grip, and you know, it's not easy for you to adapt from one car to another, and these guys have been in the car all year.
John Village has yet to adapt from being sober again for this weekend, having that win in Indonesia. I tell you, JVA and company all know how to celebrate pretty well. And
no doubt I'm going to be watching you say that and keeping a close eye on you as well this weekend, Keith. Andy, let's also talk about Graham Rahal, son of Bobby, because he's got pedigree, but has he got what it takes in this series?
He's going to be in at the deep end. I mean, he's come from Formula BMW. He finished 7th in that championship, 3rd best rookie. He's still in the very early stage of his motorsport. And in my mind, he's got another 2 or 3 years of motorsport education before he's ready for a car of this sort of horsepower, to be honest.
Interesting you said about pedigree there. I don't know whether you said it on purpose, Georgie, but of course driving in a Lebanese car. I didn't know there was that much Lebanese connection between the Rahals.
There is some ancestry, isn't there?
Yeah, obviously there is, otherwise he wouldn't be driving for the country, but he's got a big deal to pull off this weekend, I think, here. especially with those conditions.
Pressure's on him, and you know, these guys are very, very quick. There's a lot of Formula 1 drivers, Friesackers now back in, or new to the championship, Jos Verstappen. These guys take no prisoners. He's in at the deep end, and I would say he's going to be one scared lad.
Talk briefly about it, but how tricky is it going to be with these conditions? Because yesterday we had the wet weather. None of the teams expected that from Mexico. Today it is dry as expected.
Well, I think you're going to find exactly the same as we find most weeks, in as much as the good teams like Dams and Co are going to be bringing their best cars out. The cars are going to be set up fairly quickly for their drivers. They know what they're doing. Again, it's going to be down to a team effort.
OK, well, let's take a look at who has impressed so far. Earlier on today, things looking like this. Stephen Simpson and Team South Africa going first fastest earlier. Ralph Furman desperate for another podium to follow up Portugal's second quickest. Jos the Boss, 2 pretty fast. Third today, Neil Yanni. Last drive this weekend for him, 4th. Brazil and Christian Fittipaldi raced here before in 5th. Robbie Kerr and Team GBR in 6th. The home hope, Salvador Duran in the Mexico car, 7th. Italy and France completing then the top 10 of fastest times earlier today. So Monterrey, Mexico, set for its first taste of A1 qualifying. Let's join Lee McKenzie ahead of the action.
Thanks, Georgie. Hello and welcome to Mexico. I remember saying at the beginning of this series that A1 follows the winter sun. Well, yet again, we arrived before it did. It's scorching now, but until this morning, conditions have been pretty poor, making this notoriously slippery circuit into an ice rink. It is a top-class circuit, though. The champ cars do come here. But what's it like for the A1 cars? Well, Robbie Kerr can tell us now. Robbie, what's it like to drive out there? It doesn't look easy.
It isn't easy. It's very dusty this morning. There's a lot of oil down from the other cars that have been around the circuit as well to make it even more like an ice rink. And it's just making life a little bit difficult, but we've got to judge what the conditions are going to be like for qualifying and change the car accordingly.
Now, in Indonesia, it was a bit of a mixed bag for you. What was said after that race? You stayed out expecting rain. It didn't come. What was the team debrief like after that race?
I didn't know we were expecting rain, but no, we went through everything and we've got a change in engineer again for this race, back to Richard. So it's looking good for this weekend. We're fairly confident with where we are, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in qualifying with everyone having such limited running in the dry.
Now, you're racing against some pretty big names who have arrived here this weekend. How's that for you? You're going to create some surprises for them?
I don't think they're under any illusions. I think they all know how tough the series is, and they're all working equally as hard as we are to get to the front, and it is going to be tight at the front, especially this weekend with such limited running.
Robbie, thanks very much. Well, those big names include Brian Herta for Team USA, Christian Fittipaldi for Brazil, and champ car ace Patrick Carpentier. Now, the pressure really is on him this weekend as he has ousted the last race winner, Sean McIntosh. And unfortunately for Sean, he's been relegated to the position of spectator this weekend. And there are plenty of spectators expected here today. Back to you.
Lee, thanks very much. Robbie, of course, qualifying on pole in Indonesia, who'll be looking to do that once more. OK, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, it is the small matter of qualifying. Welcome back to Fundadora Park in Monterrey, Mexico, where qualifying is due to get underway shortly. 4 sessions, each 50 minutes long, the first of which just moments away. Well, before we go trackside for qualifying, let's bring you a more detailed look at the Park Fundadora race circuit. Here's Ben Edwards.
Round 9 of the A1 Grand Prix Series brings us to Fundadora Park in Monterrey. We're in northeast Mexico, an area which founded its original wealth on mines and processing plants, on the work of miners and their leaders, testaments to whom remain in the park today. The circuit, which was created in time for the 2001 Champ Car event, runs anti-clockwise and features mostly low-speed technical corners rather than high-speed sweepers. The first sequence is a case in point, with one corner blending into another, tightening through the second part. This is the approach to the first corner. A good wide start-finish straight borders the widest pit road seen in A1 so far, but it all funnels down to a single line into the first bend, unless that is a driver's prepared to be particularly brave. Taken in second gear, perhaps even first gear for the left-hander, the drivers will concentrate on a good exit speed. Further around the lap is a sequence of bends at turn 6 and beyond, a kink left followed by a long right, and then to finish it off, a tricky high curb chicane. The remnants of the early industrial age bear witness to these modern charioteers' efforts to negotiate a complicated sequence of corners. The track surface is smooth and offers little grip until plenty of rubber has been laid down. In the dry, it'll be tempting to launch the car over the curbs, but that could spell trouble for over-ambitious pilots who could easily end up on the grass. The lap concludes with a section known as the S's, 2 constant radius corners flowing into one another, which bring the cars onto pit straights once again. The approach is at high speed, the bend before the straight here being the fastest on the track, but we've already seen in practice it's easy to brake too late into the first part of the S's. It's probably best to avoid the gravel, however. Lightweight porous rocks won't do the underside of the car any good at all. Get it right and the 2 bends link together in a smooth flowing sequence, but this is also the area which leads into the pits for the all-important feature race wheel change. It's technical and tricky, the Fundidora circuit, latest host to A1 Grand Prix.
Technical and tricky, so says Ben Edwards. There's a look at the Park Fundidora. A few of the drivers, notably, Andy, some of the ones that are familiar with the circuit are the newer drivers. What can we expect from it?
Well, I think with the changeable conditions, like we've had rain, now it's dry, the guys with the experience are going to be the guys that are going to top the timesheet. But what will happen as the session goes on further and further, you'll see the good guys, the guys who've been in the car all year, coming through to the top. But they definitely have got, you know, the unfair advantage at the moment because you get so little running time.
It has gone from wet to dry to hot, Keith. How's that going to be affecting the teams as they adapt for this qualifying first session?
Well, I was just wondering that. We've got Ginghar Ma that's out there for the Chinese in front of Tenji Zhang, who's been out there before. But the man that was in front of him that we saw a moment ago was Graham Rahal, just 17 years old. And it's a big deal for these guys at the moment. I want to focus a little bit, though, if I can, on Team GBR. I mean, and their almighty mess that they found themselves in Indonesia. They've had a fairly fundamental team change as far as the technicians are concerned for this week. Robbie alluded to it very slightly in that conversation with Lee McKenzie earlier. I think that is going to be a critical situation for them. If they're going to win races, they've really got to start working as a team. They didn't in Indonesia, they have to here.
Teamwork then the key for the first of the qualifying sessions. The team's just gearing up for it. Guiding you through the day's qualifying action are trackside reporters Lee McKenzie and Gareth Jones, and our commentary team of John Watson and Ben Edwards. They'll take you through the first of the 4 qualifying sessions due to get underway shortly. Let's hand you trackside.
Pole winner from the last event, Robbie Kerr, climbs aboard Team GBR's entry here in Monterey as we prepare for the first of 4 15-minute segments which will determine the grid positions for the sprint race. Disappointed, no doubt, after Indonesia. He finished second in the sprint race, was leading so much of that feature race. They had a communication problem on the radio. He didn't come into the pits at the crucial moment, and of course in the end finished in 10th place. So there's still work to be done, and that first elusive win for Team Great Britain.
Yes, here's another new face, a new name in for Team Canada. And you might be surprised because Sean McIntosh won the feature race at the last round in Indonesia, but this was already pre-planned. Patrick Carpentier, who has raced here on a number of occasions in Champ Car, he's in this weekend in Monterey in Mexico. He will be in also in a fortnight's time at Laguna Seca in Northern California.
But yesterday in the wet, it was this car, New Zealand's car, that was so impressive. Every time it went on track, it was either fastest or second fastest. He had the fastest time of the day, although in the second practice session, France were a smidgen quicker on that session, but it was still Matt who had the best time overall. But in the dry this morning, they weren't going quite so quickly, so we'll have to see how they get on. Meanwhile, Team USA were going quite well this morning.
Brian Herter had a good run this morning. He ended up 8th quickest, and that's really the first time I think that Brian Herter, who we've seen previously in for Team USA, looked to be getting to grips with his A1GP car, and a circuit again familiar to Brian Herter, having raced here in Champ Car. And this is why we're seeing a number of drivers, almost you might say guest drivers, coming in for these next 2 races here in Mexico and in California. They've got intimate track knowledge. They know what the racetrack does. They know how it will transfer and change throughout the duration of both the 18-lap and the 36-lap feature and sprint races. So look to USA and Canada to maybe move forward beyond where they've been over the previous rounds.
Germany could spring a surprise this weekend. Timo Scheider back in the car once again has been very impressive both in the wet and the dry. He was fast this morning as well in the dry practice, so it could be one to watch for Team Germany. We are back with the Mexican car once more. Salvador Duran, the youngster, who's going to be racing in the British F3 series throughout 2006. And there he is up against one of the veterans of A1 Grand Prix, Jos Verstappen, winner of course in the feature race in Durban.
Yes, and I mean, Jos is a driver who's capable of winning pretty much any one of these rounds, but you sort of sometimes sense that if it isn't quite working, that the frustration gets to him, and he goes into this sort of thing of really sliding the car around, which can, on occasions, hurt your tyres. It may not work against him here because it is a circuit with a very low level of grip. He has got great car control, and Jos Verstappen ended up third quickest this morning.
Now, let me tell you that the track is open, but no one has decided to go out on circuit just yet. The green flag has been waved at the end of the pit lane, but we're counting down, but nobody has decided to go onto the track just yet.
It's been open for some 3 minutes and a few seconds time, and this is unusual because ordinarily once the track is open, somebody will be out literally once that flag has been waved, but nobody seems to want to be the first car out on track. They know that initially the first car out is going to be disadvantaged because after all 22 nations have been out, the track will have picked up maybe half a second, maybe up to a second. And with that wind blowing, and it really has picked up, it's blowing directly behind the cars as they come down the main start finish straight. There's always an issue when there's been a stoppage, as we have had from the end of practice to the start of qualifying. We know that tracks everywhere lose 3 or 4 tenths, maybe even more in the case here in Monterey.
So we're just having a quick look on down the pit lane. We saw Christian Jones there a moment ago. Now we're looking at Robbie Kerr. So Australia have got Christian Jones in the car. Great Britain, Robbie Kerr, who's done all of the races so far for Team Great Britain. 7 drivers, in fact, have competed at all of the A1 events we've had to date. But 2 of them not here this weekend, Matthias Lauda and Sean McIntosh, who is here but not driving for Canada. Hayanari Shimoda was the only driver who actually did any damage to his car in the Friday practice sessions. We saw a lot of spins and minor offs, but he was the only one who actually, unfortunately, ran out of runoff, did some damage to the left front corner.
Yes, and of course that precluded any running for the remaining part of that session and the session that followed on Friday. The advantage maybe that he has is that the wet weather running has got no bearing whatsoever to what we're going to have now in qualifying, as engines are firing up and the cars are making their way down the pit lane. We've got some 10.5 minutes of the session remaining, so time to get on with the job, boys. But most people would anticipate in the pit lane that they're going to go through the running. They're not anticipating this first qualifying session to be relevant to their overall best 2 qualifying sessions out of 4.
So it's Lebanon out on track first, and we've seen that often before, but remember, it's a new driver. It's Graham Rahal, the son of 3 times IndyCar champion Bobby Rahal, the man who was involved in running the Jaguar Formula 1 team, of course, as well, who still runs cars in the IRL in the United States, a man totally immersed in motorsport, and now it's the turn of his son to rise to the international stage. Now, what he's been racing in the last few years is Formula BMW in the United States. A couple of years ago, as just 15-year-old, he actually got special dispensation to race in Formula BMW, and then last year he was in the what's called the Star Mazda series and took a victory in that, several podium finishes, and is obviously showing a lot of promise.
Yes, there's one thing Graham Rahal has got to do, and that's stop growing. He's 6'2", and that's literally on the limit for any professional racing driver, because race cars are not really designed about drivers anywhere above 6 feet. As you saw coming through, this is the sweeper. This is effectively the quickest corner on the circuit now, coming up to turns 10, 11 and 12, and we saw a lot of problem under braking at this part of racetrack in the wet. It hasn't been so critical in the dry. There are bumps on the entry and people were locking up brakes. Coming through here, this is through turn 11, only in second gear, which is probably a gear down from where they ought to be once the track really comes up to full potential.
Here we go then. He's done his out lap. He now goes on to his one single flying lap. You only get one shot at it in each 15-minute session, and this is the first run of the day. Down into turn number 1. It's to the right beneath the bridge, and then a very tight left-hander coming up.
Yes, now the time he did this morning was a 1 minute 25.6. That's the benchmark that they'll be looking for. Anything slower than that, then everybody will realise the track conditions have not yet come up to the level that they were at the finish of that official practice session. Anything better, then there's going to be a flurry of cars making their way down the pit lane to try and take advantage of what they think might be track conditions that are favourable.
Braking hard into turn 5. This is another tight corner, trying to get the traction out of there. You could see the car sliding a bit, but he kept his foot on the accelerator.
Yes, and I mean, a lot of car control. I mean, 17 years of age in an A1GP car. First time in an A1GP car at a racetrack he's never raced at. He's got all the composure, all the style of racing that his father used to have, used to see from Bobby many years. Again, comes out of 7, the back end breaks away, and now they run down into turn 8.
Yeah, let's see how he gets on here. Of course, he did a little bit of testing last week in Italy, not in an A1 car, but in a Formula 3000 car, just to get used to a car of a similar sort of size and performance. It's a big step up to what he's done in the past, but so far so good. And in all the practice sessions we've seen, he's made very few mistakes. Some of the more experienced drivers have been making more mistakes than he has.
Yes, but just coming through turn 11, you saw the back end of the car wanted to get away. He had to check it, get out of the throttle. That'll have cost him maybe 2 or 3 tenths per second. Now it comes through turn 12 onto the start-finish straight, runs up against the barrier. Now it comes down, well, at the time, 1 minute 31.
So 31, that's quite a slow time compared to what they were doing this morning.
It's almost 5.5 seconds slower as we now look at Mexico. So Team Mexico, Salvador Duran out on circuit, going to complete his lap. And this is the light lap from Mexico, but that's a long way off. It's 5.5 seconds off what was achieved this morning. So clearly the wind blowing has picked up some of the dust that's around the racetrack, and the track is not at this stage giving up the kind of lap times that we saw.
Mexico, though, have decided to go out and get onto a lap themselves, and 1 or 2 others now just beginning to make their way down the pit lane. France, though, still deciding to waiting for the opportunity to come out on circuit and go for that one single lap. Now it's Alexander Premat who's driving again this weekend for France. It was Lapierre last time, remember, when we were in Indonesia, so it's the usual alternate system between the 2 drivers for Team France. And also remember, they could possibly wrap up the A1 series this weekend, but that would depend on Switzerland having a pretty tough time of it. Mexico, getting held up though on his flying lap because cars have just come out of the pits. New Zealand was right in front of him as he came through turns 1 and 2. That won't help Salvador Duran get a good time here.
No, it's not, but I think anybody who's out in the session is going to realise that the time isn't in the track, and we're going to have to wait for further sessions. Nevertheless, they've got to go through the motions. You never know what might happen to you. It could be another car coming out. You might find somebody has gone off track and there could be a red flag. Remember, a red flag in these sessions, the clock doesn't stop, so you have to go out and do a time. It may not be the best time you're capable of, but it might be the time that combines to give you your grid position for the sprint race.
Bobbling over the curbs, try not to hit the curbs too hard there. Salvador Duran looked pretty neat and tidy through that section, and so far so good for the Mexican driver as we begin to see, as I say, more cars on track. Mexico on their hot lap, so is Australia now on their hot lap, somewhat further back. We'll keep an eye on this one though. He's well up on the Lebanese time.
Yes, some 2.5 seconds up, but he's still some 3 seconds away from what was the best time this morning. So again, Mexico picking up speed that we didn't see from Lebanon. Of course, first time for Graham Rahal in this 1 lap qualifying sector. So Mexico, we lose it. We go back to see what's going on to France in the pit lane.
Look at Mexico just coming out of the final quarter. Let's see what the time is. 27.778. So he's quickest by a long way, but it's still not as quick as he was this morning.
Just about 2 seconds slower than we saw from Mexico this morning, but that's quite a big chunk of time. And if we get more cars out on track with some 4.5 minutes of the session remaining, a lot of people are going to get very busy in the pit lane because time is just literally, it is running away.
Of course, what the times we saw this morning, John, they were able to put together several laps in a row. Here they've got to do it in just 1 lap, and the tyres perhaps not coming fully up to grip.
I think that really is the part of the reason, if not the total reason, why we're not seeing comparable lap times. People were doing runs of 5 or 6, 7 laps, and it took that to get the tyre temperature to come up because it's such a slippery, low grip surface that until you get that tyre temperature, you can't get the grip and the balance.
So let's see what Christian Jones can achieve here for Team Australia. Marcus Marshall did drive the car on Friday, but Christian Jones went a bit quicker. He also drove the car on Friday, was a bit quicker, got the nod for the drive this weekend. But that first time is actually slower than the Lebanon time of Graham Rahal. So at the moment, only 3 cars have completed a lap. It's Mexico, Lebanon and Australia.
So New Zealand, let's see what they do as they come down. Again, you can see how the car moves around. This is coming into turns 10. Czech Republic running behind. They're on a flying lap. So Thomas Enger, who had real problems this morning and misfire coming from the Czech Republic, but Germany is the quickest car right now. It was Mexico briefly, it is now Germany.
So Germany's just gone fastest, but let's see who else can beat that target. Everyone looking for a cleaner track. New Zealand's gone quickest. Let's see what the Czech can do. Thomas Enger, can he go fastest? No, he goes second quickest. It's now New Zealand, the Czech Republic and Germany are top three. Still plenty more to come. Only 3 minutes left of this first qualifying segment. It's going to be very busy out there, and there's a danger of being held up.
New Zealand have gone, the only car so far in this first qualifying have gone quicker than they did this morning. That was only by a few hundredths of a second, but it is relevant.
It is. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. New Zealand quickest so far. Italy just about to cross the line. They go second now, and it's Enrico Toccacello driving again for Team Italy this weekend. Busnelli is here. He was driving the car last time in Indonesia, but it's Enrico Toccacello who's done the bulk of driving for Italy, has gone into second.
Let's see what... Well, I was going to say, this is China. No, it's not just the Netherlands. We saw China earlier. This is Jos Verstappen. So we're looking to see he comes up through turn 11 into turn 12, and the car again just moves around under the Dutchman now. Let him swing the car right out to the barrier on the outside. No one so far has had contact that. We're waiting to see who's going to be first.
So he goes fourth quickest. New Zealand remain top at the moment.
But Portugal directly behind, so where are they going to end up? Portugal goes...
I think they're only just on to their hot lap. Yep, just going on to their hot lap now. Portugal will be one to watch, though, you're right, because they were very quick this morning. Alvaro Parent was looking confident and composed. Ananda Mikula here, driving for Indonesia, suffered from the amount of pressure on him a little bit in that event a couple of weeks ago in Sentul. Not necessarily a fan of these tighter, more technical tracks, so let's see how he gets on. Perhaps suffers a little bit of impatience on a track like this.
Well, he's going to have to learn to be patient, because this is the kind of track will catch you out. Low grip, and Nimikola now comes across start-finish line, ends up sixth, just over a second off New Zealand, still on top of the timings. Only 11 cars recording a time with just over a minute of the session remaining.
Ireland on track now as well, so we'll try and keep an eye on how quickly they're going. Portugal, Great Britain's on a lap as well. Let me tell you that Great Britain is on a hot lap currently, but Portugal definitely one to watch here, because look, he's only 0.3 of a second down. That could be enough to go third, probably not to go second.
But running behind South Africa, they were the nation who ended up quickest in this morning's session. Alvaro Parent closes up. They come through turns 10 and 11.
But South Africa's on his out lap still. He's not onto his hot lap. This could hurt Portugal. Oh, he closes right up to the back of the South African car, but the South African car needs to be fully on it here, because he now starts his hot lap as Portugal comes round to complete the lap. Where does it put Portugal? Not fastest. They do go third fastest.
No doubt Portugal did lose out, because South Africa took it gently through that final turn to get the car as straight as possible, to line it up to get onto the start-finish straight.
Let's see how Great Britain's getting on. The pole sitter last time out, remember, in Indonesia, Robbie Kerr. Let's see whether they've got the car balanced and set up for this Monterey circuit. Trying not to slide it around too much, keeping it neat and tidy where possible. He's out of the final corner. The checkered flag about to come out on the session. Is it enough to go quickest? Look at the margin for Great Britain. 1.1 seconds faster than anyone else, but there are still about 8 to 10 cars on a hot lap.
Well, that's a big chunk. There's the checkered flag. The session is officially over. There's GBR, New Zealand, Italy top three, but we've yet to see Ireland come through, France to come through, Switzerland to come through. As we look down at this team, Switzerland, Neil Jani in his last run for his nation.
Yeah, Switzerland, let's see what Neil Jani can do. We'll watch to see. He's been pretty quick throughout the course of the weekend. He's gone fastest. Look at that. Very narrow margin, 74 thousandths. But Neil Jani in his last outing, as you say, John, for Team Switzerland.
And Malaysia just behind on road. They go fifth quickest. This is the man who dominated the official practice sessions this morning. Stephen Simpson and South Africa. We wait to see where they are. As you come, well, this is going to be a good time.
It's all changed. France has gone fastest. France has gone quickest. Ireland's up to fourth with that lap, and South Africa goes second. Great lap from Stephen Simpson. He's brimming with confidence here this weekend, and that is a great effort from Simpson. He's second only to France, but once again, Team France left it to the last minute, found a clear lap, and Alexander Premack, the only man in the 1 minute 24s, a 1:24.908, he's got an advantage, John, of nearly half a second over South Africa.
That's just down to the team. That's just, they know this car so well. They've got two very evenly matched drivers. It's about confidence in the car. They didn't show the speed that we thought they ought to have done this morning. They're only 10th quickest, but when it counts, they end up quickest.
So this is how it stands at the end of the first segment. France fastest by nearly half a second from South Africa, then it's Switzerland, Great Britain, Ireland up there in 5th, New Zealand 6th, then Italy, Malaysia, Christian Fittipaldi for Brazil going well into 9th, and Patrick Carpentier, new boy, up into 10th place. Then 11th, we've got Austria, another new driver there, that's Patrick Friesacker driving for Team Austria this weekend, ahead of Portugal, the United States, then the Czech Republic, Netherlands down in 15th place for Jos Verstappen, Germany down in 16th, then it's Indonesia, Mexico, well done, that they came out early, remember, then it's Japan, China, Lebanon, and finally Australia.
So that's qualifying session 1 from A1 Mexico. We're back after the break with reaction and analysis. Welcome back to A1 Mexico. Session 1 of qualifying complete. Analysis in just a moment. First, though, details of the great double bill of live football, which is coming up tomorrow. We're at Anfield as Liverpool face Manchester City in the Premiership at noon. Then at the Millennium Stadium for the Carling Cup final between Manchester United and Wigan. That's from 2:30. Both of those games on Sky Sports 1. Then at 7, don't forget A1 Grand Prix race day from Mexico. You can join us on Sky Sports 3. So from session 1, we saw that Team France left it late. Keith Ewan, was that to let others clean the track?
I think you've got it absolutely in one. I mean, the track looked very, very slippery early on. We saw Lebanon out there very early in Graham Rahal, of course. I think France would have been just as happy almost not to have gone out there and bothered to get a time in that particular session. The rain looks like it's going to stay away. The track was very slippery, very dusty. It's something that all the drivers have been complaining about. And I think that France got it bang on dead right. So did Robbie Kerr, didn't he? Yes, we saw Robbie Kerr go very, very fast during that qualifying session, so much so that we all thought he might have done it, and then a number of things happened. But just talk us through this, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at his lap actually, and you can interestingly see that he has a good level of grip and he has a nice balance in his car. You saw with Graham Rahal the car sliding all over the place, and Robbie's got a good balance, a little bit of understeer, but a nice neutral car on the exit, and he put in a great time. But unfortunately, you know, it wasn't quite good enough to be on P1, but he's in the fight and it will get quicker during the session, and it's nice to see Robbie back up there on the pace. He's driven very, very well this year and he's had a lot of bad luck, so I'm happy to see he's on the pace.
Neil Yarney came out next. He set his stall out, didn't he, Keith?
Yeah, Neil Yarney, the ghost of Neil Yarney, of course, who wasn't supposed to be here this week, and finally Mexico. The Swiss put him back in, and he really he's keeping France honest by being out there. Of course, Neil Yarney is the only guy, the only team that can actually take France to task, I think, realistically, in this part of the season. Looked good, as you would expect from him. Again, it's that bone of contention. Damns the team actually run both France, the Swiss, Mexico and Russia, for how much that counts. Not a lot, it would turn out, but I mean, 4 teams ultimately you're getting data from. Carlin Motorsport, they run 3 teams out there, so they're collecting quite a lot of data. I think some of the teams that are running just single cars are slightly on the back foot with the amount of data, and Motorsport, as Andy will tell us, is all about data and the information coming back from the cars. Interesting that you should mention that, because speaking to Ralph Furman earlier on in the week, he said just that it wasn't so fair because Team Downs were running this combination duo, fast duo, should we say, of Team France and Team Switzerland. We'll hear more from him on that tomorrow. Let's also speak about Stephen Simpson, because we haven't mentioned him yet. He's going quick here, isn't he?
He's a dark horse, driving very, very well. I mean, I've been impressed with his pace from time to time this year. He doesn't, out of the car, he doesn't seem to be the aggressive racing driver, but in the car he's driven spectacularly well, and he's put a very, very quick time here in qualifying. And let's not forget, he's been consistently up there in all 3 free practice sessions, so he's driven very, very well.
Yeah, Stephen Simpson, I think you mentioned it when you said time to time. He certainly has impressed us. We've been talking about him off air, and he's been thereabouts over the last few weeks.
Not for the impatient, this track. That's what you've said during the course of that qualifying session. Discuss, Andy.
Well, it's a track where I think you need to have the aggression, but you need to have the control. And being an inexperienced driver, it's very easy with all the slow speed, technical corners to overdrive. Locking the wheel, you saw with Graham Rahal, spinning the rear up, running wide, touching a bit of grass on the exit. You need a lot of control, and it's knowing when not to commit the car to be fast. I think Robbie will suit this circuit because he's experienced. France again at the front, you know, top performance. And I think at the end of the day, the experienced guys will come through.
Lovely setting, isn't it? The mountains of Monterey, as we're just seeing there. Gearing up for qualifying session 2. Going to hand over to our commentary team once more as the crowds look on in Mexico for this, the second session. John Watson and Ben Edwards will guide you through it.
Well, you can see how windy it's becoming out there at the moment. The flags opposite our position in the control tower here are really fluttering hard, but nonetheless, hopefully the track conditions won't alter too much. Now, Neil Yarni for Team Switzerland is having his final outing before he goes off on Grand Prix duty. He's enjoying himself so far, third quickest. Does he have more? Let's find out.
Neil, I know you've got to leave A1 Grand Prix after this weekend. This is your last qualifying session. How do you think your chances are of finally getting pole from those French guys?
Well, for sure, my aim is to get my third pole in this series. And for the moment, it's looking okay. I'm in third position, but we had some problems in this first run, trying to solve them for the second one and to be back there then.
It's ridiculously windy in the pit lane at the moment. Is that giving you problems on the start-finish straight?
Well, it's a backwind or it's a tailwind on the main straight, so you don't really feel it.
And are you going to miss A1GP?
Yeah, for sure, I will miss you. And no, I mean, I had a very nice time here, and I learned a lot, and I hope I go well prepared into my next season now.
Neil, we'll miss you too. Thank you very much indeed, and good luck.
Thank you.
So Neil Yarni, who of course is a Toro Rosso third driver for Grand Prix racing for the 2006 season, so he'll be going off on those duties before the next event in A1 Grand Prix. Now, the man who's second quickest currently is Stephen Simpson of South Africa. He's with Lee.
Stephen, you've done a pretty good job out there, second so far. You must be very pleased.
Yeah, certainly. It's been a good day so far. Still 3 more sessions to go though, so I think everybody's still got 2 sets of new tyres to go, so it's nice being second, but I think it's all to play for in the next 3 runs.
Alex Prema was just saying he was very impressed with your run, but he's got a lot of improvement to do. He made a couple of mistakes in there, so that won't fill you with too much happiness.
Well, I made a few mistakes myself, so hopefully I'll be able to give him a good run for his money today.
The wind's picked up in the pit lane. What are conditions like on the circuit?
They're better than they were this morning. There was a lot of cement dust down this morning on the circuit, so it's actually, I think every lap you do or every session that goes by, the circuit's going to get cleaner and quicker. So I think we might find that the 4th segment in qualifying today is going to be the quickest one.
And will you be leaving it late to go out in this session?
Yeah, I think so. I'll see what the other guys are doing.
Stephen, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Now we're seeing our first car heading down the pit lane in this second segment, and interestingly, you can certainly see how windy it is there. Interestingly, it's Mexico heading down.
Yeah, the difficulty everybody has, if they all wait until the very last moment to go out on the track, they're going to find a very, very busy racetrack, and that'll be contrary to quick times.
Let's just see what's going on as he comes out on track. There's the streets of Monterey, just the other side of the wall here. We are very much pretty much in the centre of the city, the downtown, the real central area. It's only about a mile away, and it's a huge city, some 3 million people living here, and this you can see making their way back around here Saturday. Let's go down to pit lane again.
Tengi, surprised not to see you in the car. What's the plans for Team China this weekend? Who's going to drive in which session?
Before this weekend, just my leg get some problems, so at the beginning we afraid if I can drive or not, so the plan is I drive yesterday the 2 session and Martin drive today, and then we'll see what's happened. And maybe tomorrow I will drive the future race and Martin drive the spinning race.
Now listen, I have to ask you, what do we call him? Do we call him Qinghua, or you call him Martin, don't you?
Martin is his English name, and normally in Chinese way we call him Qinghua.
Oh, we'll call him Qinghua too. Tengi, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
So Tengi Zhang, who up to now has been pretty much sole representative for Team China, but Qinghua Ma's been at all the events.
Yes, and Salvador Duran locks up as he comes through, or into turn 12, and then runs right wide to that barrier on the outside, going the first car out on track, and a big gamble for Mexico, using the benefit of having a clear track, rather than waiting until the end, as others clearly will do, knowing that if he gets one clean, clear lap, he's got a better chance than winning, so there's going to be 16 or 18 cars out in the last second of the second qualifying.
Now remember, the clock in the top left-hand corner of your screen is counting from his first lap time, which was at 1 minute, let's see what it was, 27.778. So the clock restarts as he goes on to his second flying lap, and it's an aggregate time. It's the combined time between 2 laps that will determine grid position. As the first driver to complete 2 laps, he'll automatically go straight to the top of the list. But we'll keep an eye on the actual individual lap time too. It'll give us an indicator of whether the track is cleaning up a bit more.
Well, he's got a clear track, and that's a big part of qualifying, making sure that you choose your time when you go onto track, that you're not going to run into traffic. And here in Monterey, assuming that we don't think anybody else has gone out, we've got Australia coming down the pit lane, but I think it's a clear track still with not just under 10 minutes of this session remaining for Mexico and Salvador Duran. But a lot of responsibility, and he was the mistake he made in Indonesia when he had the chance to win that race didn't do him too many favours. He's got to redress that situation as he now comes through this final turn, goes on to pit straight, and see whether he can make a further improvement.
Right, let's see what it is as he crosses the line. Of course, the aggregate time comes up at 2:53.121. The individual lap time, a quick one, a 1:25.343.
Yeah, it's about just over 2 seconds, in fact, quicker than he achieved in that first qualifying segment. So there, the fans, the Mexican fans, all delighted to see their driver going quickest, which is understandable. He's the only car on racetrack to have recorded a time in second qualifying.
Yeah, Australia have gone out on circuit now, but I think that's the only other car that's actually taken to the track so far. Team Ireland are waiting for their opportunity to go out. Ralph Furman sitting, waiting patiently. One of the more experienced drivers, of course, from Formula One, from racing in Japan. He's been flying all over the world recently. He's still UK based, but he races in Japan. He was in Japan last week for a Honda function, and then dashing over here to race in the A1 car. He'll be flying back to the UK, back to Japan in the intervening time. So he's a man counting up the air miles at the moment. Enrico Toccocello back out for Team Italy this weekend. A lot of experience, and let's just wait to see how he can improve. Currently he's 8th quickest.
Well, just over 8 minutes remaining, and we've only seen time from one nation, that being Mexico. We've got Australia out on track, but these 8 minutes are going to go very quickly indeed, and if everybody waits and hangs around until 3 minutes or less to go, then it will be very difficult for anybody to get a clear lap. It might be one driver finds that slot, but basically you're not going to get the bulk of the field getting the best out of their equipment if they wait too long.
Australia just going on to its hot lap as we look into the pits and see Patrick Carpentier. There is Christian Jones into turn 1. Easy to run out of road through there, but he kept it tidy enough, tight onto the curb on the apex of the second corner. And now, of course, the new target to beat is that combined time set by Mexico of 2 minutes 53.121. Now remember, he was quite a long way down the list, wasn't he, after that first one?
In fact, he was the slowest of the 22 cars. He did a 1:32.131, so he needs to find a lot. I mean, a large, you can see there's the differential already based on the combined, so over 6.7 seconds. And he was something like that slower anyway. So he's probably holding station to the quickest time so far for Mexico, but he needs to find not tenths but lumps of seconds.
Hops over the curb there. It's tricky curb. You've got to use it a little bit, but if you hop over it too much and the car bounces offline, you lose valuable tenths of a second. So Christian Jones concluding that section of track. Now he's through the fast sweeper. This is actually the fastest corner probably on the whole circuit, and now along a decent length straight up towards turns 10, 11 and 12.
Yes, easy to outbrake yourself in there. You've got to get the speed down. That's quite a tight turn, much tighter looking from the driver's perspective than we're seeing from this high camera position. Then it gets slightly a very difficult entry out of turn 11, compromises then his entry into turn 12. So having to check the throttle, get off it, get back on it again. So Christian Jones comes across 7.9 seconds down, and that's not going to be satisfactory.
No, his individual lap time not that quick, a 1:28.912, and that's well, it's over 3 seconds slower than Salvador Duran achieved a moment ago in Mexico's car. Now, New Zealand's on a quick lap here, aren't they? So their combined time's going to come up in a moment, and this may well go fastest. This may well beat Mexico's combined time to date.
Well, certainly he was hard on it coming out of turn 12. He almost clipped the barrier. He goes second, just 0.8 of a second slower than Mexico.
I'll tell you what, that it seems to indicate that Mexico's time was very quick, but what we don't know necessarily is which cars are on new tyres for this second segment. Looking at that, I would guess that New Zealand are on a used set and that Mexico went out on a new set of tyres.
Well, I think anybody who's got new tyres in the entire pit lane have got 2 sets of them. are going to hold them back. The issue is whether that new tyre will have enough time to get to its optimum level on such a slick road surface as we got here, and I don't know if anybody has got that. The only team that we know was from this morning when South Africa did only 12 laps. They got that last lap time because general consensus was they had the tyre to do it.
So Indonesia on a hot lap. You're watching the red and white colours there of Team Indonesia. Ananda Mikula at the wheel, pushing hard. He just went past the Australian car, which is now heading back into the pits. Just the one flying lap, remember, in each of these 15-minute segments. Watch the car twitching, moving around, tight into the last corner here, and then watch the power and exit close to the wall and see where he gets to.
He's got to beat that 2:53.1, which he doesn't do, but he goes third. 2:54.220.
About a second off Mexico's single lap pace on that particular lap, and the fastest lap of the day so far still Francis from earlier.
Alvaro Parent of Portugal.
Let's keep an eye on Parent. He's just going on to his quick lap. Great view over that left rear, just in front of the left rear wheel, and you can see how much work is going in to getting through these tight and twisty sections.
Coming into turn one, really turn one, you're pretty much unsighted. You go under a bridge, so you're almost turning in, anticipating where the corner is. Those are the curbs that we're talking about, going through turns 3 and 4, then you go down to 5. This is where we saw in the morning session, this part of racetrack was totally saturated in oil. No one knows where it came from. They put down Speedy Dry, the flag being waved there on the left-hand side. Is there a car? There is a car up ahead, and that looks like a car that possibly is coming in or has just gone out because it's not running at full qualifying speed.
Good individual lap this is looking like for Alvaro Parent. He was only 12th after the first qualifying segment, but his split time to France's fastest lap outright was only a few thousandths slower. So he's on a quick one here.
Team GBR are out there on a lap up, just under indeed. So good lap indeed. 0.3 of a second up on France's time.
Yeah, this is going to be a mega lap from Alvaro Parent, as long as he doesn't get held up by Team GBR, who are still building up their pace, heading towards their hot lap.
Just keep it in tight, don't run wide, keep the car tight all the way around 11, then get yourself in position to then make as straight a line exit as possible to maximise the drive off the corner. Free the car up on the exit, run out to the barrier if you wish, but keep the car feeling positive and moving forward.
Team Portugal goes fastest. That's a great run from Alvaro Parent, and the lap time of 1:25.012 wasn't quite the quickest of the day so far. That still belongs to France, but that was a good effort for Team Portugal. Now we're watching Japan.
Hanare Shimoda, he popped over that curb, put himself slightly out of position as he came out of turn 4, now down into turn 5. Just keep the car tight. These are second gear corners, they're low speed corners, just 20 hundredths of a second away, that intermediate.
Yeah, that's a good lap that Hanare Shimoda is on. We're riding on board with the Japanese driver. Shunted to the car yesterday, didn't get much running at all, didn't really feature this morning on the timesheets, but this is looking much better. He qualified extremely well in Indonesia. He was 5th on the grid, was out of luck in the races, and he's working hard now.
Yeah, just trying to balance the car on the steering, on the throttle, very little grip coming through turn 12. Now hard on the power, up 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th gears.
Second, he goes second fastest. That was a very quick lap. 1:25.181. Still no one's beaten France's mark from earlier.
2 minutes of the session remaining, and China have spun. They've got it going. They just check to make sure that car coming through doesn't. So a little mistake, that's going to cost China. It will not matter. They've got 2 more sessions to go. Nevertheless, if we look at Austria, Patrick Friesacker in the car for China, for Austria for the first time.
That's right, Friesacker with a lot of experience. He was racing for Minardi in Formula 1 in the early part of last year, and of course his best result came at that rather bizarre Grand Prix at Indianapolis when he finished in 6th place when there weren't many there. That's a replay of Chinquan Ma going off, and in fact that was on his hot lap, I'm afraid.
Well, that was also on the exit of turn 12, and that's the entry into the pit lane. So you see China come across as Jos Verstappen again, that Netherlands car. Jos Verstappen, who was this morning 3rd quickest in practice. Didn't quite do so well in that first qualifying session.
No, he was only 15th in that first qualifying session, so they maybe ran on old tyres, I don't know, but he's just gone 2nd and then just been pushed back to 3rd by Team Italy. So at the moment, Great Britain now have gone quickest. Great Britain fastest, Italy 2nd, Netherlands 3rd.
1 minute of this session remaining, and we still have got to see 6, 7 cars come out on track.
The fastest time of the day has been done by Italy, a 1:23.353 from Enrico Toccacello.
Fastest lap we've seen over the weekend to date.
So that's brought Italy up into 2nd. Great Britain's time was competitive at a 1:24.5. quicker than France's time from earlier. Now watch Brazil, because Christian Fittipaldi's been going pretty well, although the as you can see, the sector time there, he's 1.9 seconds down, so he's not going to feature that far up. That could still be enough to put him in the top 6 perhaps, but not much more than that, and we've still got a number of cars on their hot laps.
And Fittipaldi comes round through turn 11, coming into this final. This is through turn 6 and 7. This very tight sequence of corners now comes down to turn 8, into then the sweeper, which is turn 9. That's the quickest corner on the circuit. We're still waiting to see France, South Africa, Switzerland, Ireland, Malaysia, Brazil and Canada come on track.
This is a good lap though from Christian Fittipaldi. This is going well for the Brazilians. And remember, there's a great contest going on for third place in the series between Brazil and Great Britain. The two teams. Brazil have had 2 wins, Great Britain have had no wins, but they have been very, very consistent, and it's going to be a battle down to the wire, I think, to see what happens there. Just waiting to see Brazil. There we are, coming onto the pit straight. Where will this put Christian Fittipaldi? Great Britain currently fastest. They go third, so that's a good effort there from Fittipaldi. A 1:23.4, nearly the fastest of the day, but still Italy holding that.
But we have not seen France, South Africa, Switzerland. They go across the line now, so those cars literally going out at the last one. But there is South Africa.
France has just gone fastest. France has... no, Switzerland's just beaten them. Switzerland, as the cars cross the line.
South Africa's beaten them all.
Wow. Stephen Simpson goes quickest for South Africa. South Africa ahead of Switzerland and France.
22.817.
Wow, what a lap that was from Stephen Simpson. By far the quickest we've seen from anybody so far. South Africa have gone fastest outright. Switzerland now second, ahead of France. Ireland have popped up there again. John, they're up to 4th. Great Britain 5th. Italy, who were quickest on the individual lap for a while, they're now 6th. Then it's Brazil, Netherlands, Malaysia and Austria. But what a stunning lap from this young man.
Well, this is real poker in motor racing, because everybody waiting. There were 7 cars, 7 nations that had yet to go out. They went out literally at the last second to ensure they could get across the start-finish line prior to the checkered flag coming out. And it's South Africa, and Stephen Simpson, the man who dominated that practice session this morning, has now dominated second qualifying. Stunning lap, 1:22.817. The only driver anywhere near the 1:22s.
Now, what strategy have they used on their tyres? Have they put a new set of tyres on for that segment? I would guess that they have. We're going to have to see what happens, because again the track is still getting quicker. But what a performance. Remember that the best grid position that South Africa have had so far was last time out in Indonesia, when he qualified in 9th position. So that's their best to date. He was a little disappointed, and now at the moment he's fastest. So let's just quickly run through the times. It's South Africa ahead of Switzerland, France now down to 3rd, ahead of Ireland and Great Britain, Italy well up in 6th, then Brazil, the Netherlands, Malaysia suddenly popping up there. That was a pretty good first run from them. And then as we look down, we've got Austria, Portugal in 11th, the Czech Republic, followed by Japan, Mexico, United States, Germany, New Zealand quite a long way down, then Indonesia, Lebanon, Australia, China and Canada not getting a run in that second session. So for some reason they didn't get a lap in, and that means that Canada at the moment are last.
Stephen Simpson leading the way in session 2. We'll review it next and look forward to the 3rd session from Monterrey, Mexico. Two sessions in at the Parc Fundadora in Monterrey, Mexico, with 2 sessions of qualifying left to go. I suppose the big question out of session 2 is just what has Stephen Simpson got that nobody else does at the moment, Keith?
Judging from what I saw, he's got a car that's sticking to the deck fairly neatly as far as this track's concerned. It is a very difficult track from the bumps and the different transitional changes that there are around the circuit. And it looked to me, Andy, like it was hooked up to the floor here all the way through this session.
Absolutely, what a fantastic lap. I mean, 22.8, over 4/10 quicker than anybody else. The car's got massive grip in the slow speed, and he's got massive commitment in the car, and he's driven that really well. Interestingly as well, Keith, leaving it right to the end of the session to do the time. 6.5 tenths quicker than anybody else.
Yeah, there's always a bit of a problem where it's a clear track you go for, or a clean track you go for, as far as the timing of your qualifying run's concerned. But they've had the quickest car out there all weekend so far. It was quick in untimed practice, and it's been quick in qualifying.
Let's talk about a few of the others, because plenty of the others recording very quick times, including Robbie Kerr once more, Andy.
Yeah, Robbie's driven very well. I think Robbie's on old tyres, and I don't think we've seen his real speed yet. I'm very impressed with Cristiano Fittipaldi down in 7th place there. He set the 3rd quickest time in that session, and to be honest, to be in 2nd time in the car, 2nd race meeting, okay, he knows the circuit, but still he's on the pace. But still a few guys, France, I think, on old tyres. So I think you're going to see a fantastic session. The next 2 sessions are going to be really exciting.
Christian Fittipaldi, a relatively new driver, a few new faces, in fact, on the A1 grid this weekend. Let's take you through them with Lee Mackenzie.
The revolving door of A1 Grand Prix keeps on turning, and for this round in Mexico, there's been no shortage of experienced drivers coming in at the expense of the young faithfuls.
The way these kids are, like the level they are, like they just hop into the car and they really stand on it. I was pretty surprised on the last track.
I haven't been in this car for quite a while. I've been driving my IRL car, so it's going to take me a little time to get used to this car again. And you know, the guys who've been doing all the races, who've got a lot more time in the car, I think will have a little more of an advantage.
One guy who knows the pressure is on is Team Canada driver Patrick Carpentier. His arrival means the winner of the last round, Sean McIntosh, is demoted to spectator.
I hope my experience can bring good things. I mean, Sean won the last race, so he's done really, really well. At the stage I'm at in my career, I think it's more the name and to try to get the series a bit more popular in Canada and trying to help A1 come across people and stuff like that.
Yeah, to race with Patrick and Christian and guys who I know and have seen before, it's nice. It's nice to spend some time and see each other. We haven't seen each other that much lately. But you know, really once you get on the track, that stuff all kind of goes away and it's just business as usual.
Hopefully we get good results too, but for me at my age, I won't say my age because Brian Herta is a bit older than me and Fittipaldi, but you know, at my age, if we do well, that's good. If not, you know, we'll take it back next time.
Question is, how much of an impression can those young and new faces make today? Qualifying session 3 is about to get started. Let's hand you back, Ralph Furman speaking.
Ralph Furman, after session 2, you've moved into 4th. That's a step in the right direction. What's it like out there?
It's an incredibly slippery circuit. There's absolutely no grip at all. It's a very peculiar surface. Never raced on anything like this before in my life. I mean, hardest thing here is, even though it's warm ambient temperature, just can't get the temperature in the tyres because there's no abrasion or no mew on the surface.
Is there much advantage then using new tyres in a circuit like this, because they're not really going to dig in at all, are they?
Well, new tyres do actually warm up a little bit quicker than old ones, just because they do grip a little bit more and you can instantly get a little bit more lateral grip out of them, so new tyres are always better.
And you've got a couple of sets left of those, have you?
We used one in the first set there. In the second run we used a new set, so you know, we're going to probably be okay. We'll see. We'll try and qualify in the top 2 or 3.
Ralph, thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
So let's see what happens as we get ready for this 3rd qualifying segment, which has begun. We've had some 35 seconds of running. The green flag has been waved on the end of the pit lane once again, but same story. Everyone's going to wait for a little while before they head onto track.
Yes, and I think it's going to get worse as these final 2 sessions get underway. Everybody knows that the best times are going to come from those that run at the end of each of these respective sessions. And again, the issue will be about traffic and finding that clear lap. And you might go out and get your thing all scheduled to work perfectly, and then you see somebody on track just on their way back in, maybe not paying as much attention as they ought to do, and it is frustrating. But that's the pressure of these 4 qualifying segments. They really put pressure on you to perform at all stages. You cannot assume because you've done something good that you're going to be in a strong position after those 4 qualifying. Equally, by hanging back, you can't be guaranteed that you're going to get 2 clear runs. So it is a very stressful situation for teams, and in particular for the drivers. And just picking the moment when they choose to go down the pit lane, I can assure you that as this session gets to within about 3 minutes from the end, there's going to be about 10 cars all line astern waiting to go out on racetrack, and inevitably somebody's going to trip up over all that and say, well, if it wasn't for this, it would have been that.
So France at the moment not quickest. They're down in 3rd place, but what about their tyres? I wonder what tyres they've got to run on. Looks as though
they look like they've been running.
Yeah, maybe. And the strategy, the tactics will be interesting to watch. Interesting also to see that maybe they're going to be out a bit earlier in this session.
In fact, those rears look new. You can see the sheen on the tyres.
Yeah.
That's a new set of tyres.
And look how early he's going, John, this time.
Well, you know, if you wait until the end, you may well be disadvantaged. France on a new set of tyres feel that it is to their benefit. to go early, and I think they may well prove to be right. It would certainly be interesting to see what kind of time we see France record going out early for the first time in the previous, this is the third session, the previous two France were very late out.
Yeah, and they want to get past China on this outlap, I should think. Well, she does on the run to the first corner, so that didn't take very long. Jinhua Ma, who is currently 21st, France, who are currently third, really going out early in this session. What a gamble on their new tyres. Team France going for the early shot here at grabbing the pole position back from South Africa.
Well, this could be the money shot for France if they can get a clear lap and they can make best use of those new tyres. And Premat and Team France have been so strong in qualifying all through the run, with Nicolas Lapierre supporting Alexander Premat. So going through these final corners as we watch China, but really this is the car we want to keep our eye on. France currently third behind Switzerland and South Africa. And France, Alexander Premat, capable of extracting a lap time on a clear track with what, 11.5 minutes of this session to run.
One pole position to his name so far out of the 3 that France have had for the sprint race. So Premat will be hoping to try and add another one to his tally here today. There is fellow driver Nicolas Lapierre, who, like Alexander Premat, was in the south of France until they jumped on a plane and arrived here Friday morning. On to his hot lap, therefore, goes Alexander Premat. Key lap coming up for the French team.
Yes, a good exit out of turn 12. Oh, and again, the back end of the car moved around, locks up into turn 2. So there is pressure. France is having to deal with the fact that they've opted to go early. They know that it may not be the optimum circuit condition, but it's a clear track and they're going to try and take advantage of it. But 2 little errors in first and second turns may just shave away those hundredths of seconds.
Now, heavy braking required here. Look at the sector time on aggregate. He's a second down on South Africa's, although on the outright quickest time, he's not that far off. It may be that they've saved their 2 new sets for the last 2 segments. We're going to have to wait and see. I would imagine they probably ran one early in that first segment, but it's all a bit of guesswork as he threads his way through that very twisty section at 6 and 7.
Yes, so on the run down into turn 8, get on the brakes, down to second gear. Then this all frees up and it's second, third, fourth gear on the exit, 6/10 down overall, but he's only 3/10 down on the fastest overall sector time, going, of course, to South Africa.
This could still be enough to move him up into second place. I don't think it's going to be enough for him to match South Africa's current combined time, but it could be enough to currently move him up to second. But will all the others go much quicker when the track is a little cleaner at the end of the 15 minutes? That's the question. Out he comes, final corner. Let's see where this puts him.
Well, good exit again out of turn 12, and well, 97 hundredths quicker, and good run from Premat. It worked at this point. Now, whether it will work with the remaining 9 minutes and 40 odd seconds, we have to wait and see.
But the individual lap time not as quick as South Africa's, about 7/10 of a second slower than South Africa's lap in segment number 2. So France not showing quite the dominant pace that we have seen on some occasions. They've really got a challenge this weekend, particularly from South Africa, I think also from Switzerland and indeed Team Ireland, who we were looking at a moment ago. Meanwhile, Jinhua Ma is now on his hot lap, is he? No, he's just completed it, and he is 20th after that lap. That was his best to date, though, a 1:28.842.
And I think, in fairness to him, that's not a bad effort. He's every lap, every session he's been on, he's found time. That's what a driver who's not really had a chance to get to grips with a car for quite some time is expected to do. As we looked into Germany, Timo Scheider, just keeping those tyre warmers on the tyres to keep the temperatures up.
Great Britain heading down pit lane, so also Great Britain deciding to go out relatively early. We're not even quite halfway through this third qualifying segment. Different strategy going on here for some of the teams. Germany's been disappointing so far. Have they got something up their sleeve? They might do. They may be saving tyres. Timo Scheider looks reasonably confident before he comes out for his third run here. And remember, we've still got one more qualifying segment to come after this, and I'm still not going to predict what's going to happen because it's, I think, a very, very open qualifying session here.
Well, if Team GBR want to move up substantially as we look at Mexico, they're going to have to do something well below the 1:24.5, which is the best time they've recorded so far over those 2 sessions.
Salvador Duran just going on to his hot lap, so he needs a good exit out of that final corner, and the 20-year-old Mexican heads down towards turn number 1. 245 kilometers per hour, I think, before he hit the brakes.
And that's about 8 kilometers an hour quicker than we've seen throughout the practice sessions. That's because the wind is blowing down the straight, so that's a significant advantage, and it's probably a small contribution to the improvement in lap times that we've been seeing across the field.
Yeah, up to about the 150 mile an hour mark they are at the end of that pit straight, and there's a couple of places where they're getting close to that, but through the corners you can see, look, first gear here, very tight, lots of wheel spin potentially if the driver's a little bit too aggressive with the throttle.
So now into this very tight sequence of turn 6 and 7, and this is going to be an interesting part of the racetrack come the start of the race, because that turn 7 there, that's part of 6 and 7. It's easy that somebody's going to try and straight line it for sure.
Yeah, you can guarantee it'll happen for somebody in the race. Meanwhile, the lap continues. Again, you can see the revs dropping right down to around 5,000 revs, even lower than that on some occasions, and then building up to just over 9,000 revs, which is where the rev limiter cuts in, up to 6th gear, all too briefly, and then he's into this final sequence of corners.
Yes, entry into 10 is difficult. You've got to really go into it slower than you think you should do to get the car then positioned to go through turn 11, hug that curb all the way around, and then line the car up to launch yourself onto start finish straight to take advantage of the tailwind that's blowing right now.
So where will this put Mexico across the line? He's 8th. So Team Mexico not really improving greatly there. They have pulled up a few places. They were 14th after the second qualifying segment. They're now into the top 10. So 2 laps in the 1 minute 25s, as Team France have run their third qualifying time, and it's not the quickest time of the day, but it is enough currently for them to be fastest on aggregate. But Great Britain on track as well. Let's see what Robbie Kerr can do.
Well, he's got to do better than 1:24.6. He's got to be really in the 1 minute 23s and the low 1 minute 23s to do any significant difference to his current position. He's currently 5th quickest, but gets a good run round that final turn 11.
I don't think this is a particularly quick lap. I reckon he's on a used set of tyres here. The split times not looking particularly quick. He may be saving it up for the end. Let's see where it hits 4th place for Great Britain, so he gains 1 position on where he was.
Yeah, and in fact he was about 0.2 of a second slower on this third qualifying run than he had achieved on the second, so indicating that he may well have used that set of tyres that he used for second qualifying in the third, and then of course he'll be left with 1 final shot. But of course the strategy of choosing which way you use your 2 new sets of tyres over the 1 used set of tyres, that's really, well, it might just come down to luck.
I don't think he's going to be on pole this time though, because he's not done either of his quick laps have been in the 1:23s, and I think you've got at this stage to have got at least 1 lap in the 1 minute 23s by the time you've done 3 qualifying segments, and he hasn't quite achieved that, so I'm not sure that Great Britain are on for a pole position this time. Let's watch Germany though. I said that I felt that they'd underperformed so far. Let's see whether this is going to be any better. I don't think it is actually from Timo Scheider. Not looking like anything particularly rapid here.
And he's going to hope that Team GBR get out of the way, because they're going to get very close as they come into those final 3 turns, 10, 11 and 12. GBR moves over to the left, good use of the mirrors, consideration to other traffic, so Germany get through cleanly, nothing lost. This is turn 10, you've got to get the speed off, then get close into the curb, hug this curb all the way around, and then get yourself into position to maximise your exit speed. And some drivers come in earlier, that's sort of pretty much the power for the course from Germany. Timo Scheider comes across, start-finish line.
So he was 16th, then he moves up to 10th, so he does gain some time there. 1:24.8, that was a pretty good lap from Scheider, but it's only just enough to put him in the top 10.
It was actually just over a second quicker than he did on any of the previous runs, so he's picked up speed, but of course the position overall is 10th, and that's not going to be good enough for Germany.
The USA's improved hugely. The USA has jumped up to 6th position now. They were 15th after segment 2, so a big leap up the standings there for Brian Herter. Team USA up into 6th place. Japan have also jumped up. They were 13th, they're now 10th. So that's pushed Germany back to 11th.
Just under 3.5 minutes of this session remain, and we're still waiting to see the bulk of the cars go out in the field. There's the man currently holding that coveted pole position, Stephen Simpson for South Africa. The stunning time of 1 minute 22.8 in that second qualifying segment, as we look at young Graham Rahal for Lebanon. And,
he's on a pretty good lap here, I think.
He's got a busy part of racetrack cars ahead and behind.
Let's try and keep an eye on the times. Of course, he's quite a long way down the order at the moment. Plus 2.7 on France's combined time. That actually means he must be on a fairly rapid lap, I think, here, because coming into this qualifying segment, he was some 6 seconds behind France's combined time. So could be looking for quite a good leap up the standings. He was 19th before this qualifying segment began. Again, he looks neat and tidy.
Well, Graham just hugs the curb. Some drivers, France in particular, are using that line. Oh, and look how close he gets to the wall coming out of turn 12.
Let's see where this puts Lebanon. 13th, that's a big jump. From 19th to 13th there for Graham Rahal on a 1:25.588.
It was about 0.3 of a second quicker than his previous best, but it puts him up currently into that 13th position.
And look at New Zealand, Matt Halliday really slinging the car around. He's desperate to find a bit of pace. So quick in the wet yesterday, but can he find some pace here in the dry this afternoon? A big slide out of the final turn.
And really using every bit of racetrack, even the dustiest part, right up against that barrier. Goes 14th. That'll not be very satisfactory for New Zealand.
He's in the 25s. He didn't even quite break into the 1-minute 24s. So a lot of work to do there for New Zealand in the final qualifying segment. How about Thomas Enger, one of the more experienced drivers?
And he gets it wrong coming into turn 10. He has to up the throttle, check the car, just overran under brakes.
Quite a good lap he's on at the moment, though. So this may jump him up the standings a little bit because he's way down in 18th position currently. We could see the Czech car leaping up inside the top 10 here. Let's just have a look. Where does it put him? 4th. What a jump from way down the list. He's now up into 4th place, and that was a 1:23.658.
And there's potentially a couple of tenths lost in turn 10. We saw that slight error when he came in, the back end of the car got away. Now we've got the Netherlands, Jos Verstappen, always entertaining to ride on board with. And here we see the Dutchman as he comes out through. These are up to turn 6 and 7.
All the cars are out there now, John. We're into the final minute virtually of qualifying, and every other car that hasn't set a time is now on circuit.
So Netherlands, Jos Verstappen, the sector time 2 minutes 19, still held by France. We haven't seen South Africa. Well, he's 4 tenths down at that particular point. That's not bad.
No, that's not bad at all. This could move the Netherlands back up the order once again. See if he can hold it together for the final part of the lap. Now, before this session began, he was running in 8th place. Now that everyone else has put in quick laps, he's dropped down to 15th position. Can he claim a place back inside the top 10? The man who won in that most dramatic race on the streets of Durban a couple of weeks ago. He comes out of the final corner. Does he go into the top 10? He goes 3rd. Big improvement there.
A big improvement, a good time, 1:25.16. Well, not as good, in fact, as if he did a 23 in qualifying in that second segment. So 25, so I don't know where he lost that time, but certainly currently in 3rd place.
France, South Africa, the Netherlands, but we're still waiting for South Africa to put in their 3rd qualifying time. Are they going to reclaim the top spot? They're in good shape to do so if they can put together a decent lap.
We're looking at Malaysia, but just ahead is Portugal. Alvaro Parente, so he was quick in those second sessions. Yes, Alex Young, Team Malaysia.
Malaysia was 9th coming into this 3rd qualifying segment. Let's see whether this is an improvement or whether they drop back. The target time, that combined time set by France of 2:48.1, 13th. So Malaysia actually losing out a bit in this session. Not quite as quick. His lap time was a 1:25.7. Not certainly the quickest we've seen.
Brazil quickest, Switzerland quickest. In the space of saying it, Brazil went quickest. Now we've got Ireland coming across. Where's Ireland going to do it? Second.
But what about South Africa? South Africa's just behind them, John. Is he going to reclaim the top spot? Cross the line. Yes, he's back in front. And look at the margin.
Massive, 0.8 of a second.
Now he's done, that lap was, the individual lap time on that lap was a 1:23.6, so add that with his 1:22.8 from earlier on, and he now has an advantage on aggregate of nearly 1 second over Switzerland, who are 2nd, Ireland 3rd, Brazil 4th, that's a great effort from Fittipaldi, and France down in 5th.
Absolutely, and I think maybe France paid the penalty of taking the choice of running much earlier, looking for the clear track, not wanting to get caught up with other cars in those closing seconds of this 3rd qualifying segment, and they have clearly lost out, but great run from Stephen Simpson.
So here we have the positions after 3 of 4 qualifying segments. What a build-up. It's a great climax coming, I think. South Africa on top, from Switzerland 2nd, Ireland 3rd, Brazil right up there in 4th, Fittipaldi using his circuit knowledge, France down in 5th ahead of the Netherlands, the Czech Republic, who jumped up there into 7th, Great Britain down in 8th, Italy 9th, and the USA going well, Brian Herter in 10th. Then it's Austria looking for one of their best grid positions of the year, Portugal, Malaysia, Mexico down in 14th, Japan 15th, and then some to improve, Germany, Lebanon, New Zealand way down in 18th place ahead of Indonesia. Canada got a lap in, but they're still way down in 20th. They're followed by Australia and China.
All to drive for there in the final session. Then session 3, though, done and dusted. Reaction to it coming next. Welcome back to A1 Grand Prix's Mexican race weekend. Just the one qualifying session left from Monterey. Analysis of session 3 to come. First, though, a reminder of race day. You can join us tomorrow at 7 p.m. Sky Sports 3 for live and uninterrupted coverage of the A1 Grand Prix from Monterey in Mexico. As we saw from the last qualifying session, Steven Simpson has been consistently quick through these and consistently quick this weekend. How refreshing is that, Keith?
Very indeed for the young man. He seems, Andy said earlier on, he seems like a very nice man off track, but he's obviously got what it takes on the track as well, and he's put together some superb laps around here. But Andy picked this up. I can't lay a claim to it at all at the moment. That the next half a dozen drivers are all within a couple of tenths of a second of each other, so it's really tough at the top at the moment. But look at that time that the Republic of South Africa has stuck in. Steven Simpson really has put together some superb laps consistently throughout the weekend, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, when things are good in motor racing, that they are really, really good. And there's nothing in between, and he's having a fantastic weekend. He's driven really, really well. I've really enjoyed watching his style this year. He's defended well in traffic, he's been committed in the car, and he's a personality, and I'm very impressed with him. I think he's doing well. But let's not forget Ralph Furman there of Ireland in third place, and as you say, Keith, all within 0.2 of a second, and I mean, you can't measure that. That is really close.
For me, the shock is it's only Fittipaldi out of the established runners around this racetrack that's actually, I mean, he was a bit of your favourite before we came on air earlier on. Fittipaldi looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But he's the only one performing. Down in, 20th place is Patrick Carpentier, who's taken over the winning car from the last round.
I tell you what, tomorrow is going to be all about pit stops, because that's what matters in the feature race. Gareth Jones brings us the latest on exactly what is needed to make a quick one.
Pit stops can make or break a race for teams.
Disappointment for
Not
Ireland.
again, wheel nut blizzard all over Red Rover.
And with one person per wheel, the pressure's on. With a Mexican standoff between the top 4 pit crews, A1 invited them to nominate their best gunslinger to settle once and for all who is the fastest draw in the lane. One way or another.
Most of the guys at the front and midfield are good at the pit stops, so yeah, it's going to be tough competition.
3, 2, 1, go.
The first challenger from Canada, it's James Slinger Thornycroft, and he slings that wheel away very quickly. Back on with the gun. This is a good performance. Straight on, and he's away.
You just don't want to be the one who messes up, really.
Go.
Next up, Andrew Loose Nuts, love it. Now let's see if he can live up to his name. A little bit slow getting the wheel off there. The time ticking by. Now can he get the wheel done up quickly? Yeah, good stop.
I hope we can win this competition.
Go.
It's Stefano the Kid Delicanato now. Oh, no, not quite right there. He's made a little slip up. Quickly get the new wheel on. But the time is ticking away.
Go.
And Team France, the team that has been so dominant in A1 Grand Prix, can they win this competition as well? Where's the wheel nut? There's the wheel nut. It's come out of the gun. That's going to cost him precious time.
I think I'm quicker in the race. I'm going to have to do it real, but yeah, that was good fun.
4th place, South Africa. 3rd place, France. 2nd place, Germany. And the winner, Canada, on 9.98.
So Canada win the A1 pit lane shootout.
Classic example, methinks, of boys and their toys. All a bit of fun in the Mexican shoot-off. Let's get back, though, to the serious matter of qualifying. The last qualifying session almost upon us. Let's rejoin John Watson and Ben Edwards.
Just 15 minutes of qualifying to go. We're waiting for this final session to get underway. Currently fastest of all with 2 very quick laps. South Africa's Steven Simpson. Can he hold on? Let's hear from him.
Stephen, you're currently about a second ahead of the other teams. You're always smiling anyway, but this must be fantastic so far.
Well, it certainly sounds very nice to hear. But no, I mean, it's so far the session's been going well. there's still one more segment to go, obviously, and a lot can happen. So I'm not getting my hopes up yet. Still got another new set of tyres to run, so still want to improve the lap time.
How good or how different is the car from over the past few events that we've had in A1?
Not too different. I mean, all the way since Australia, I keep on saying when I got back in the car, all the way up until now, we've kind of been improving the car slightly. I've been sort of working on a few things myself, and overall the package is just getting better. So, I mean, the Indonesia was a good race for us. South Africa was good. Dubai was good. But I certainly want to be back on the podium this weekend.
Stephen, have a great last session.
Thank you very much.
Just almost oozing confidence at the moment is Stephen Simpson, but we're still to see whether he's going to hold on to this pole position. Let's just quickly check the times again. It's South Africa, Switzerland, Ireland, then Brazil, France down in 5th. Can they get a bit further up? Netherlands down in 6th, then the Czech Republic, Great Britain, pole last time, 8th currently. Italy and the USA rounding out the top 10, then Austria, Portugal, Malaysia, Mexico. Watch out for cars further down the list that have got at least one quick lap in. Scheider there for Germany, definitely with potential to improve. Further down the list also, maybe keep an eye on Carpentier. If he can put in a quick lap, he'll move up the order as well.
Well, Stephen Simpson really is going into unknown territory because he's never been in the position to take that coveted pole position, but he's got that lovely comfort zone of 9/10 of a second over Switzerland, so he doesn't have to go out and do anything dramatic. He's just got to go out and continue to do what he has done over these previous 3 qualifying sessions, and it looks to me like he's in a pretty comfortable position.
China are the first to go out on their hot lap. He is on his quick lap now, and the first split comes up, and of course we're not looking to see a major improvement here for Team China. They've got their less experienced driver behind the wheel for this qualifying session, Jinhua Ma, who's driving. Currently he is the slowest, but he put in a 1:28.842 last time around. If he can improve on that, the team will be relatively happy.
But the progress that he's making is forward. He's getting quicker in every session, and by sending him out early, he gives him a clear track. He's got nothing to really worry about other than that of driving the car. As he comes into the back section of the circuit through this sweep, they call it, the quickest corner on the circuit, turn 9, and the charge up into turn 10, braking slightly earlier than you would imagine, having to anticipate the turn in and keep the car. What's he doing? He's running way wide. That was a strange line. I've not seen anybody other than by error make an entry into turn 11 like that.
That was a slightly bizarre line, but he's still got a chance actually of eclipsing Australia here if he can just get across the line quickly. Yes, he does. For the moment, he's not last anymore. He's just gone ahead of Australia. He's 21st, but remember, Australia's still got to come out in this session.
Yes, in fact, China's fastest lap is about 1/10.5 of a second quicker than Australia's fastest lap, and Australia, I think, would be very disappointed to have that particular fact being broadcast.
Yeah, that's right. They were on the podium last time out with Marcus Marshall. It's not going well at all for them this weekend so far in qualifying. But there is a man who could make a difference. He is currently second fastest for Team Switzerland, Neil Jani.
And it looks like Neil Jani is thinking about going out fairly early. We've got 11 minutes remaining, so it's not that great length of time. He's got to get into the car, get the belts attached, and any other bits of communication, radio, or if he's got a drinks bottle. No need for a drinks bottle in a 1-lap qualifying session. Anyway, it takes another 2 or 3 minutes to get all this work carried out. Driver's got to be comfortable. He's got to get the seat belts adjusted precisely as he feels comfortable and just get back into the car, having only vacated it some 15 minutes earlier.
On track at the moment, both Brazil and Mexico, so they've gone for an early run. So has Italy, interestingly. They've just gone out of the pit lane and headed down towards the first sector. Ralph Furman giving us a little wave. Now, there is the other green car, green, white and yellow car of Brazil. It's Christian Fittipaldi, a man who's been quick here in the past in champ cars and had a good 3rd place finish here some years ago. Was fastest in one of the qualifying sessions in a damp session, but lost his time due to causing a red flag. He obviously likes this place. Let's see what he can do on his final run.
And I think not only does he like this circuit, he's enjoying himself driving a single-seater racing car. He hasn't done so prior to Indonesia for some 3 years. There is nothing like racing single-seaters. So that's been the basis of your motor racing career. And Christian Fittipaldi, part of that dynasty of Fittipaldis, the son, of course, of Wilson Fittipaldi. Uncle Emerson is here keeping a guiding hand on the Team Brazil's entry.
So 0.9 on aggregate down. This could still improve Brazil. They're currently 4th. But that lap time is looking quite quick, maybe not quite enough to improve a great deal. He's done a 1:23.4 and a 1:24.4. So there is potential for a little bit of improvement as he attacks that chicane.
And we're expecting the racetrack to be at its best in this final of the 4 qualifying sessions, because the cars have been out 3 times 15 minutes. So the track ought to be in good 9/10 of a second down on overall, but just 3/10 down on South Africa's at that particular second segment.
Could be enough to move up to third. It would put Ireland under pressure here, so this could be enough for Christian Fittipaldi for the moment to move up into third position, and whatever it is, it's a good effort for the man, only in his second outing in A1 Grand Prix. And as you say, John, with that long layoff from driving a single-seater out of the final corner he comes. Let's see where this puts Brazil. Will they move up from 4th position? They go second now to South Africa. That was a 1:23.6.
Good lap from Christian Fittipaldi. You know, if you're a racing driver, having been accustomed to driving single-seaters, you never really lose it.
Mexico's also done their lap. Now they've gone to 8th place with their final run. 8th position for the local team.
Enrico Toccacella for Italy. So they're down in 10th place. One again. One's wide on the exit coming out of turn 11, but gets the car into the apex. Very tight run out of turn 12.
This is looking good.
Should be a good run.
This could be enough to improve Italy's performance and put them up near the front. Second for Italy. Enrico Toccacella returning to A1 and really stamping his mark there with a good run.
And a 1:23.304.
Yeah, he's only 2/10 of a second off the combined time that has been set by South Africa. So South Africa's not safe yet, you know. There are still some others who could potentially improve. We're looking at Indonesia, currently down in, let's see where they are at the moment.
All the way down in 19th place.
Yeah, 19th position, so there's some work to do here for Ananda Mikkola. His best lap so far, 1:25.7. He needs to get something in the 1:24s if they're to move up the order.
So exit out of turn 7 in the short run, down into turn 8, clear road ahead of him. And Mikkola coming back from really huge disappointment in his own race in Indonesia a fortnight ago. High expectations from his nation and his president, who was present at that race. Now without that pressure, can get on with the job and just think about driving.
Last few corners coming up here. Keep it smooth and tidy. Grandstands on the outside. Great viewing, by the way, there of these A1 cars in action as they slither their way through these last few corners. And now out of the final bend. A few more cars are heading out onto circuit as we speak. Where's this going to put Indonesia? An improvement on 19th place. Yes, up to 13th position, but with plenty other cars still to come out. Will they stay 13th? I'm not too sure. I don't think they're going to be seeing a particularly strong starting position this weekend. Now, Patrick Carpentier for Canada.
Yes, he had that mistake on his second qualifying. The third qualifying run wasn't particularly stunning. So
bit of a slide, but he caught it well.
Patrick Carpentier really has to deliver now for Canada on the back of the success that we saw from Sean McIntosh in Indonesia. And again, a mature driver. As he said, I'm not the youngest out there, but I know this place very well.
Yeah, so he's trying to use that Champ Car experience that he has of this circuit to ring a quick lap out. He finished in 4th place here in the Champ Car race in 2004. Race won by Sébastien Bourdais. And Carpentier now trying to make the most of that little bit of circuit knowledge. But of course...
all wrong in the exit of 12. The back end swung away and just lost all the momentum coming off the final turn. So whatever he'd built up through the lap, he's gone 11th. That is an improvement, but it'll probably see him fall further back as the remaining field, with 6 minutes of the session remaining, with Ireland and France still jacked up in the pit lane, and South Africa, of course, currently fastest of all. They've got 5.5 minutes, just over 5.5 minutes to go.
That was a lap in the 1:23s for Canada, though, so it was a pretty quick lap there for Carpentier. If he hadn't lost a segment through the spin at turn 1, he may well have improved on that, but he's outside the top 10 currently. Lebanon's just gone 10th. Lebanon has just gone 10th quickest, courtesy of new driver Graham Rahal.
Outstanding drive, 23.678, and I think Father Bobby should be pretty pleased with son Graham.
Netherlands has improved too. Just saw it in Jos Verstappen. He's 3rd. So we've now got South Africa here, still fastest outright. Italy 2nd, Netherlands 3rd, Brazil 4th, Switzerland 5th. And Switzerland yet to go, Ireland yet to go, France still haven't done their run. They're running 5th, 6th and 7th currently. Czech Republic could be a danger to some of those front runners too.
Team GBR, Robbie Kerr, all the way down currently in 11th place. So a big amount of time for Robbie Kerr to dig out of Team GBR.
Yeah, but he's got a 1:24.5 up his sleeve. really desperately needs a lap, at least in the 123s, if not in the 122s here.
Well, he needs certainly something in the 22s if he's going to put himself at the front of the grid. Ideally, he's probably looking at a low 1 minute 23 based on what we've seen from the 3 previous runs.
It's not looking good. 2.8 seconds. That's going to keep him down pretty much where he is. It's almost exactly where he is at the moment. And I tell you what, he's behind Lebanon currently. So Lebanon, who've gone 10th, Great Britain in danger of qualifying behind Lebanon here. They don't seem to have got the car set up particularly well for this slippery track. Let's just see where Great Britain's going to be. Pole position last time out, and
they just nipped Lebanon by thousandths of a second. So Robbie Kerr rounds out row 5, and that will be disappointing.
So, not the success of Indonesia. USA's gone up to 3rd. Look at Brian Herter. He's lapped up.
1 minute 22.609. Stunning lap from Brian Herter.
The fastest lap of the day has just been set by Brian Herter for Team USA. They're in 3rd position. What a huge improvement for them. But it's still South Africa leading the way here, and they're yet to come out. There's only 3 3/4 minutes left of this session.
So we're waiting for Switzerland, Ireland and France, as well as South Africa. There they are. They're all now. No one's prepared to be the first to leave the pit lane. Just 3.5 minutes remaining. They're going to have to go very shortly.
Team New Zealand's on track now. They are looking to try and improve. They've still got some work to do. Matt Halliday down in 20th position with some more improvements having been made by others. Desperate to find some time. Where has the speed gone from the wet session on Friday?
Czech Republic just ahead. Oh, and did he kiss the wall? Well, certainly that's as close as anyone we've seen.
Across the line he goes, and New Zealand's up to 11th. That's a big jump, and that was a good lap, a 123.9.
Czech Republic up to 10th place, so that's, well, in fact, they are in 10th place. Thomas Enger goes on to his flying lap.
Well, here we go. Switzerland now preparing. New tyres. Yes, new tyres on the Swiss car. So Neil Yarni, danger man here, particularly for Team South Africa. They've also got new tyres, though, remember, because Stephen Simpson was telling us, and he wants to hold on to his first pole.
Who do you choose to follow, Switzerland or South Africa?
That's going to be a tough call. France still to come out. So is Team Ireland. Now they're beginning to move. Switzerland on the move. The tyre blankets off France. France has just been released ahead of Switzerland. That's interesting.
And Ireland also now make their way. It's only South Africa yet to leave the pit lane. Ireland, the penultimate car to go out. There we look at South Africa. There they are, line abreast. France, Switzerland, Ireland. They're going to have to make room for each other on the racetrack. They will spread out, but in doing so they will lose tyre temperature because they will not run at the speed they're potentially capable of.
South Africa just moving now. They've left it to the very last moment here, hoping to make it round before the checkered flag comes out and to put in one more quick lap.
Thomas Enger, Czech Republic, currently standing in 10th place. They're seeking an improvement. Team GBR, it's Germany in fact just ahead, with New Zealand behind. So
fourth fastest then overall for the Czech Republic, a 123.2. Quick lap there from Thomas Enger. It's now South Africa, Italy, United States, Czech Republic. What a difference. But remember, we've still got France and Switzerland and Ireland to come. 3 of the fastest teams. And South Africa here out on track to defend pole position.
This is just the outlap for South Africa. We've got Ireland, Switzerland and France just ahead. That is France. And is that Switzerland running directly behind? Yes, it is. I think Switzerland should drop back. He doesn't want to run in the air from France ahead. All that's going to do, to me, is be a distraction for Switzerland.
3 pole positions in A1 Grand Prix for France so far in the series. 2 for Brazil, 2 for Switzerland and 1 for Great Britain.
Switzerland has dropped back. So now coming through turns 10 and 11, France have pulled away. There's the gap, it's now 5 or 6 seconds. France has got a clear track ahead. Switzerland behind, waiting to see. There's the Swiss car coming on to start-finish straight.
So good strategy there from Neil Yarni. He dropped back, waited, and now they're both going on to their flying lap. So is Team Ireland. I could just see
lock up for France into turn 2. That's costing time.
And France, of course, desperate for a quick lap here. Their best lap so far, a 23.5. But if he can get into the 122s, he could still take pole, despite the fact that at the moment he's down in 9th position.
Well, there we look at France again. The car looking less than stable, coming into turn 5 at the back of the circuit. Then up through the gears, coming up into the sequence of corners through 6 and 7. Easy to overdrive and lose time.
He's still, you saw from the split at the lower part of the screen, he's slightly slower than the fastest lap that's been set by Team USA. Remember, Brian Herter set the pace outright on a single lap.
Car now looking more stable, more in control. That little error into turn 2 at the beginning of the lap 0.333 of a second time, but 1/10 of a second up on the USA.
This could be a challenge to South Africa. He still could be challenging for pole position here. He's got to gain a bit more on the final part of the lap.
And Switzerland also is very quick.
So Switzerland could be in with a shout. It's all going to come down to the wire here. The clock has counted down. The checkered flag is out. Everyone on their final lap. Now, where's this going to put Alexander Premat? Has he done enough to claim the top spot? He's gone for it, and he's gone fastest.
Oh, massive.
22.3 for Alexander Premat. Now
Switzerland second.
Second quickest for Switzerland. South Africa have got it all to do to claim the spot back. There's Simpson. How quick is he going? Is it enough? Is he going to take back that pole position? Or will France come out on top? He's coming across the line. He's done it! South Africa reclaim the top spot.
1:22.078.
Brilliant.
Massive, absolutely massive.
The fifth nation to take pole position in A1 Grand Prix. Last time out, we had the fifth nation to win a race, and now we've had 5 nations to take a pole position as well. And what a great run from Stephen Simpson, one of the less experienced drivers, let's not forget, in A1 Grand Prix. He stepped up from Formula Renault to drive in A1 Grand Prix. They had a tough start to their campaign, but boy oh boy, he has come of age today with that performance.
I mean, that was a stunning run. They held back till the very end. 1:22.078, the quickest lap that we've seen over these 4 qualifying sessions. There you see Enrique Garibaldi, who runs the Team South Africa entry, along with James Robinson, who's engineering the car in conjunction with driver Stephen Simpson, and there's real joy in South Africa. Great result. James Robinson, well, the headphones on, and he'll be talking to Stephen saying, "Good job, my son, outstanding."
That really is. I mean, when you consider their best qualifying to date has been 9th place. That was last time out in Sentul in Indonesia. And they've leapt up the standings. They've now taken pole position. And let's just run through the order. We have a new pole sitter. It's South Africa, but look at France. They're always up there. They claim second at the end. Switzerland third. Italy fourth. That's a great starting position for Italy. And USA, likewise, 5th place for them. Czech Republic 6th. Netherlands in 7th. Then Ireland 8th. Brazil 9th. Portugal in 10th place. Look further down, 11th for Malaysia, Germany 12th, 13th for New Zealand, Mexico, the locals, on 14th. Last pole sitter, Great Britain, way down in 15th, Lebanon 16th, their best ever qualifying performance, Japan 17th, Austria 18th, then it's Canada, Indonesia, Australia and China. That's how the 22 nations will start the sprint race.
So an excellent and really exciting last session. It came down to the wire. Reaction to it coming up next. Step up this man, Stephen Simpson. Anything France could do, he could do better today. Team South Africa take pole in Mexico. So, qualification then, Stephen Simpson on pole from Alexander Premat in 2nd spot there. Niliani of Switzerland in 3rd in his final drive in A1 this year. Enrico Tococello in the Italian car lines up in 4th. In 5th, USA's Brian Herter. Nail-biting stuff, as both of my studio guests can testify. That's exactly what that last session was, isn't it, Keith?
I watch a lot of motorsport and motorcycle sport, and I think we can rate this in as being one of the best qualifying sessions of any of the disciplines. Really, really superb stuff. France went out to do the business, and we were wondering whether France, with some new tyres on it, I think he made a couple of mistakes on this lap, Andy, but he certainly set the benchmark for South Africa, who are some way behind him at this point.
Absolutely, a little bit rugged in the first part of the lap, but really got it together, and obviously he's got a car that's well hooked up in the last part of the lap. But what a sensational qualifying session to see the scrap go down to the last 2 minutes. It was very exciting.
And of course Brian Herter was in there with the fastest lap at that particular point as well. The American obviously knows this track, comes from Champ Car and IRL, looks pretty good on this racetrack anyway, knows it very well. But as Premat came to the line, might have been a little bit of a scruffy lap here and there, but it was a meaningful one, wasn't it, as he got across the line. Then we all focused on the Republic of South Africa. Could Stephen Simpson beat that? Look at that, 1:22.3, hell of a time.
Absolutely, I was suspecting that Yanni would be capable of putting it on pole, and actually, believe it or not, I think there were 5 or 6 drivers who actually had nice fresh tyres in the bag and were ready and waiting to take the pole position. But Simpson here just was sensational, like the only driver to be under 23 seconds in both sessions.
Well, he's certainly had a hell of a weekend so far, from practice to qualifying, and now pole in the sprint race. Could be his weekend, Georgie.
It certainly could be. Just briefly, what about the dark horses? Brazil, perhaps?
I'm going to put my money on Herta, actually, because he knows the track really well and he's made a big step.
OK, well, we'll look out for plenty of the new faces as well that have decided to turn up this weekend for A1 Grand Prix in Mexico. Let's just remind you of race day. It all gets underway tomorrow. Uninterrupted live race coverage tomorrow, 7 p.m. on Sky Sports 3. So it all came down to the last lap of the last session, but out of the Mexican mayhem emerged the softly spoken South African Stephen Simpson. Be sure to join us for race day.